Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 66 of The Cosmic Force. I am one of your hosts, Emma Park, and tonight, Naked Palpatine and Hot Dog Boba Fett walk into a random podcast episode on YouTube. What happens next, you'll never believe. That's right, folks, we are talking about Dark Empire, the most talked about comic in Cosmic Force history, but one that we've never actually talked about officially. So it'll be a lot of fun to do that. And of course, I had to have two very special guests to join me tonight to talk about this. It's only fitting that we have the perpetuators of this meme in our community joining me to discuss, the holy comic to us. We've got Jared Mays with us. I mean, Jared, he's the one that brought up Naked Palpatine in the first place. Jared,
do we have Jared, or do we have Scooby-Doo Luke Skywalker?
Scooby-Doo Luke. Oh, I forgot about that one. I should have said Naked Palpatine, Hot Dog Boba Fett, and Scooby-Doo Luke Skywalker.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. You got the world vacuum, the vacuum cleaner, world devastators.
Yeah.
So many things come from this.
So many things.
We haven't talked about Vima Dabota yet. I mean, come on.
Oh my goodness.
This is just an excellent story. I tell you what, I've been a little bit like, Star Wars out lately. To a certain degree, because it's just Celebration was a lot.
Yeah.
Celebration was a lot, and it was so satisfying. And then after that, we had Kenobi, which was also a lot, like emotionally, for us Star Wars fans to handle. And so then I went into some of my bottom tier Legends books that I'm trying to finish out, and it's just been like, it's been a grind. It's been a grind. You get my the day job to then Emma says, "Would you read Dark Empire for the Cosmic Force?" And the other day I was like, all right, I got to focus on this. It's homework. I got a show coming up. And I sat down with Dark Empire for a couple of evenings. And oh my gosh, was it not the most reinvigorating Star Wars experience of my life? My wife looks over at me and I just have this huge, goofy grin. She's like, is happening over there? What are you looking at on that iPad? And I was like, yeah, it's the Star Wars. And anyway, Emma, thank you for having me on. I'm very, very happy to talk about my favorite Star Wars story of all time.
Yes, of course. I mean, we couldn't do this one without you, Jared. And you know who else we couldn't do it without? Is Freddy C. Not even a monsoon could prevent him from joining our episode tonight. Freddy, how are you doing?
It has been an absolute journey to get onto this episode tonight. And on this day, or on this night, I guess, the eve of our 100th episode, I'm pretty happy to be talking about what are they calling us? What did you say, Emma? The perpetrators of naked
the
perps.
Let's go with that.
Sure. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I didn't even plan this episode to work out with the eve of the 100th episode of Legends Lookback, but it was serendipitous, I gotta say. Like,
really, there's one thing. Great. There's one thing Jared said about reinvigorating the fandom, and there's nothing like going back into old school stuff. The homebrew, if you will, the chicken noodle soup of Star Wars, and I think this is what it is for Jared, at least.
Are you really going to compare it, Dark Empire, to noodles?
Ready?
Yes.
Fell right into that one. Oh, goodness.
He fell into a vat of noodles, everybody. You heard it here on the Cosmic Force.
Noodles. That is probably the only way you can describe noodles that make them sound disgusting. All right, everybody. Before we, lose ourselves too much here, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We don't usually open the show in such a strange way, but it's a special episode. We are a Star Wars comics podcast that's part of the Youtini Broadcast Network. We broadcast live right here on youtube.com/Youtini every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't join us live, that's okay, because we're also available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We have a Discord server at youtini.com/Discord with over 1,000 members with dozens of channels to choose from. So definitely join us there and join the conversation. Send us your favorite Dark Empire meme. There's so many to choose from. If you like what you see and want to say thanks, head over to our Patreon channel at patreon.com/Youtini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Youtini podcast network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community involvement activities. So Jared, we don't have any new patrons this week, but give the folks listening, they might not be a patron right now, but give them a pitch. Like, why should they join our Patreon?
Oh, put me on the spot. Something fun.
Okay. I'm doing it, yes.
So there's all kinds of Patreon exclusive content that we've cranked out over the years. Every now and then, one of us on the team will be like, I'm going to do this thing. And they'll say, put it up on Patreon. Like, that's definitely not for the broad internet. It's very niche. So yeah, let's give some extra bonus content. I've got like a 5-part series, one more to come eventually, as soon as I can dedicate an entire weekend toward the project, a 5-part series of building my Star Wars room from scratch. And so I'll grab the camera and I'll grab a project, and you get to see me mess up and hurt myself and choose the tunes to jam along to. And we've got all kinds of stuff, Patreon exclusive podcasts, some that we've started and killed in the time that you could have already listened to as a patron. So, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff. We did light speed skipping. That's all up on there. I mean, there's some fun content on
light
Patreon.
Speed skipping is some of the, funniest Star Wars podcasts that you'll listen to, like, period, ever. And like Jared said, I mean, it's not just podcasts you get. You get special YouTube stuff. You get, what else do you get? Yeah, you get, like, community involvement activities. Sometimes we have, like, watch parties every once in a while on Discord. Like, it's a lot of fun. So we'd love to see a new patron or two on our list next week. All right, so moving next to our weekly pull list. As always, it is Wednesday, New Comic Book Day, and that means new Star Wars comics. First up, we have Bounty Hunters number 26, Raid on the Vermilion Part 3. This is written by Ethan Sachs, with the art by Paolo Villanelli, colors by R.F. Prianto, letters by Travis Lanham, and the cover is by Giuseppe Camuncoli and Jesus Abertov. So, yeah, I haven't read this one yet today, but I'm really looking forward to it. Bounty Hunters has really been picking up for me. I know a lot of people have been feeling similarly, which is interesting because, you know, Valence, you know, he's kind of off doing his own thing right now. So you would think that would be
crazy.
Isn't that insane? Yeah.
Yeah, the series started rough for me, and
yeah,
then,
same.
and then has improved. I'm still back around issue 20 on the main
Yeah.
lines. Right, the 3 you got Vader and Star Wars and Bounty Hunters. I'm on 20 of all those, so I got to catch up. But it's got Kira on the cover, so
yeah. So it has
I'm missing
to be
something.
good.
I'm missing something.
Very much so. I mean, we're still in we're at the very tail end of the Crimson Reign era. You know, that miniseries has wrapped up now, but you know, she's still kicking around, you know, and we'd love to see it.
I did not know that. I'm very excited.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it would take a lot to knock her out of the events of the Star Wars. Yes, definitely. Speaking of some hardy characters here, we've got Han Solo and Chewbacca, issue number 5, subtitled The Crystal Run Part 5. This is written by Mark Guggenheim with pencils by David Messina, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Joe Caramanga, and the cover is from our good buddy Bill Noto. I've been really enjoying this comic quite a bit, and I have no idea who these two characters are on the front, but I'm very
It's Han
intrigued.
Solo and Chewbacca, right? They're in costume.
They're in costume, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that would be fascinating. Right now I'm noticing that the two characters that I'm, you know, kind of unfamiliar with, they both have, you know, kind of like the Han Solo belt holster thing going on. So
they do.
Yeah.
Emma, remind me sometime to tell you about my belt buckle collection. I have over 100 belt buckles of various shapes and sizes.
Okay, that is going on my list of things to do because I need to know about that desperately. Wow, is one of them a Star Wars one at least?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Good. I had no idea that they made Star Wars belt buckles, but I shouldn't be surprised.
They don't exactly work well on a YouTube podcast because
no,
you know,
I'd imagine
waist.
not. Yeah,
you don't want to like stick it up to the camera. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That'd be a little awkward, but yeah, I'll definitely.
Not as awkward as Dark Empire. I'll tell you that much.
No, certainly not. But
Move along.
You know, we do it for the show. You know what I mean? All right, and to round out our releases, this came out yesterday. Kind of fitting that you guys are on here, and there was a Legends release yesterday.
Yes.
The Legends Epic Collection, the Clone Wars Volume 4 came out yesterday, and this is by various authors and artists. If I were to list all of them, we'd be here for like another 10 minutes, but shout out to everyone involved. This cover, though, is by Dave Dorman. I think this is like an absolutely gorgeous cover.
We love us some Dave Dorman, don't we, Freddy?
Yeah,
we do.
Love some
That's
Dave
for sure.
Dorman. You know,
how about this?
Grievous
there is
background.
Go ahead, Emma. Finish.
No. I was just saying, like Grievous. He looks so creepy, like back
he
there.
Looks
and
tortured.
You got the shadows, and it's just really creepy.
Yeah, the underneaths of his eye sacs there look like mine.
Eye sacs. Oh my god.
Yeah, looks like a sleepy boy Grievous.
Sleepy boy Grievous.
There's a comic in this Legends collection that is not Legends.
Oh, it's Darth Maul, son of Dathomir, right?
That's right. In classic Star Wars style, they somehow managed to cross the streams.
Oh no, Jared! I don't think I would have actually Okay, so I have the list here, and I don't think I would have noticed that if you didn't point it out, even though I know that it's canon. You know.
I can't decide if I think it's like charming because, of course, Star Wars would do something wacky like this because, of course, like the first movie is Episode 4, right?
Right.
Or if I'm frustrated. Yep. Okay. My eye just started to twitch.
Yeah, he's frustrated, folks. I can see it. Well, I mean,
comic.
The rest of them are Legends, though. You know, you've got the Star Wars Free Comic Book Day special from 2005. And I don't know, Jared, if I'm saying this right. Synthesis?
I've never heard this. I have no idea.
Okay, so
I think about this, Freddy.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. Synthesis. It sounds like a Sith plant that is going through photosynthesis, but it's evil. So it goes through synthesis.
I believe it. Checks out to me.
Vibes with the whole Sith thing. Yeah, so it's called Synthesis, and it's from Star Wars Visionaries. It sounds like it's like a shorter sort of story. I don't know. We'll have to check that out. It's also got Republic issues 74 to 77 and 81 to 83. It also has the Revenge of the Sith adaptation, Tag and Bank Revenge of the Clone Menace, and lastly, A Death Star is Born from Star Wars Tales number 4. I love the pun in that. It's great.
So basically,
it's so
everything
cool.
surrounding Revenge of the Sith, like before and after Order
Yeah,
66.
that's what it sounds
cool.
like. Yeah, so I wonder if this is the the last Clone Wars volume of the Legends Epic Collection. That seems like it based on the selections here, but
cool.
Interesting. Yeah, so
Volume
if you want to get any of these these issues or the Legends Epic Collection, as always, all of the links to purchase these are down in the description below. So next up we have our What We're Loving segment. We've got no art of the week this week just because there's like so much to talk about with Dark Empire. But we do want to talk about notable things from the group, what we're reading or otherwise. So Jared, what do you have to share today?
Oh yeah, I'm going to grab this off the shelf. Here we go. I'm listening to an audiobook.
Oh boy.
I've got this at Celebration, Stories of Jedi and Sith. So I think I've got another cover of it. We're up again. No. Apparently, I still need to pick up my other cover of this bad boy. The audiobook just came out. Y'all know about this? The audiobook got delayed. Audiobook got delayed, and now my whole room is shaking because I got up to go get this beautiful book. I think it's signed by an author or two. All right. The audiobook has a full cast narration. They've even got the actress Nika Futterman, who played Ventress, reads a story.
Oh, nice.
They've got Sam Witwer, who plays Maul, does a story. So far, I've listened to both stories are excellent. Excellent. The second one that I listened to is a Qui-Gon Jinn story set in and around the events of what's the one by Claudia Gray?
Oh, Master and Apprentice.
Youtini, yes. So there's a tie-in story to Master and Apprentice in here. It ties in. And the audiobook narrator who does the second story, he does the best Liam Neeson impression I've ever heard. It is.
Dude, I'm gonna have to listen to the audiobook now.
The entire drive to and from the greasy hamburger place I went to for lunch, I was like, "Oh, I got Liam Neeson in here with me." Man. Anyway, so that's what I'm loving. It's not a comic. Does it count? It's got
it absolutely counts. Oh, it definitely counts. Yeah, and they're by Jake Bartok.
Okay. I got to meet him. Yeah,
that was awesome. I think I've told this story on the show before, but in case I haven't, I got his signature on my High Republic poster. Oh yeah, look at that art. Oh, that's so good. So good. Yeah, I got his signature on my High Republic poster because I got a poster, like an art print, and it was actually drawn by him, and he was standing behind me in line for the High Republic author signing. So I was like, hey man, look what I brought for all the authors to sign, and he signed it for me. Really awesome.
What is this?
Look at that.
Hologram? Yeah. What's my favorite Qui-Gon quote from the movies is very fast, very dangerous. Talking about pod racing. I say it all the time. Anytime like the puppy starts running around, I'll turn to my wife and I'll say, very fast, very dangerous.
Oh my God.
I love it.
Freddie, what do you got?
Yeah, so I've been going through Freddy C's archives. I've been finding a lot of old stuff recently. Oh yes, Jared. I'm looking at some hardcovers right now that I'm gonna show for the 100th, possibly if we have time. Things that I found that that I haven't seen in a long time. Also, stuff like this. What is this? The official game guide for
Oh man.
Star Wars Galaxies.
A Star Wars book I've never seen before. That's
Look
fun.
at this. It's got maps.
Looks like a phone book.
Oh yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's got maps of each of the worlds and like the big cities like Mos Espa, where you can find certain things, right? I've also got this one, Empire at War. Found this one as well.
Oh, very nice.
Does it have cheat
the
codes,
last
Freddy?
one. I don't know if there's probably cheat codes in here.
Don't tell
this
Andrew.
Here, another official strategy game guide, Galactic Battlegrounds.
I've never even heard of that.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I bet you that was
was.
made before Emma was even born.
Probably.
Ooh, let's see.
Probably.
When was the publishing date on this? Not sure, but probably. And then a couple more things here. I know it's a lot of random stuff. It's crazy. I'm sure some of you might remember this. The Art of Star Wars Episode 1. I think it came
Oh,
in
cool.
the VHS, but it has a lot of concept art from.
Go back to that Gungan.
Hold
on.
A page full of Gungans.
What a quote.
Whoa, look
Holy
at
smokes. What?
Jar
Yeah.
Jar eating that thing. Wow.
Yep.
For our
there's-
audio listeners, Freddy's showing off some weird stuff.
Yeah, and I don't really know how to describe it for our audio listeners. I don't think you
It's
can.
weird.
I think you need to see it.
There's some Gungan concept art that I've never laid eyes.
Look
Yeah.
how beautiful
before.
this is.
Oh wow.
wow.
Oh,
Yeah, so there's-
that's really fascinating.
Padme.
There's a lot
art.
of cool art in here. I feel like it deserves a lot of what is that? Valentine Farfalla?
Hold up. No, we got a young Liam Neeson looking like a
Liam
hologram.
Neeson. Hologram. And then of course, last but not least, this Empire Strikes Back storybook, which I think is
Oh
for kids.
wow.
And it tells the story of Star Wars in like a, I don't know, like a picture book format. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Here, I'll
that's
show
so
you an
cool.
example.
I just watched Empire. I've been watching Empire with my kids last couple nights. So this is fun to see.
Amazing. And that's like
So-
from, 1980?
Oh, this is from a long time ago. Yeah, you can tell just how
Yeah.
old
How crusty it is.
and crusty.
It's
and
very crusty.
It's a scholastic book, so I must have found it somewhere. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
remember even having
Did you
it.
bust open your piggy bank on the counter at the book fair in order to buy that?
Probably.
Oh
Although
man.
1980, I was definitely not around yet. I was -7 years old.
Yeah. Oh wow. That's
Don't
that's
ask
so
Emma
great.
how many negatives she was at that point.
That was a lot of negatives at that point. Yeah.
Make us sound old.
Well, that was you guys always bring the best show and tells to the show.
Best
so-
smeller.
Best smeller, yeah, there you go. So I actually don't have a book this week, but I do have something to show the audience. I think, it was like maybe a month or two ago, I brought my cousin dog named Ivy on the show, and she hung out with me for like the entire episode. Well, my family and I, we caught, puppy fever, and we
Oh,
got...
we about to do it.
Oh, yes. Oh, we're about
we
to
about
do
to
it.
do it.
Yeah, we're about to do it. We got a puppy, and I have her waiting in the wings. So let me get on the one cam here.
Yes. It's a puppy podcast, everybody.
Enter stage left.
Hi, everyone.
Oh my gosh.
This is Finley May. She's an
Adorable
Irish
dog.
Jack Russell Terrier, and hi, Finley. Yeah, you see all
Speak.
the lights?
Speak.
Yeah, she's very nervous.
Speak. No, she won't bark into the microphone.
So I texted my dad to come bring her up when we were ready, and she's over here like choking on something like while you guys are speaking. I'm like, what's the matter, Finley? So anyways, she's shaking. I don't think she likes the lights, but I just wanted to show everyone because I'm a happy girl now that we have. Hi. Yes, hello.
Is-
Oh, there we go. That's the thumbnail
that-
right there.
Yes. So she's
Is that the same dog as Wishbone?
Wishbone? Who's Wishbone?
Ooh, we had another classic tale there. Wishbone was a dog who would tell stories to his kid.
What? The dog had a kid?
Yeah.
What kind of spice are you on tonight, Freddie?
Wishbone
that's
was a storytelling dog. How about that?
I like it. I like to
I've got a
think
vague
that Finley
memory.
is the same as a storytelling dog. I like to think that. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing that's happened this week. We weren't supposed to get her for another couple weeks, but she was able to come home to us earlier, and
Nice.
it's been really exciting. And I got her a couple Star Wars toys at PetSmart, and
Oh.
yeah, they have like a whole Star Wars section at at least my local PetSmart, and they had like some Halloween costumes out. Currently working on trying to convince my family to let me dress her up as something from Star Wars, but we'll work on that. So yeah, welcome Finley to the Park family.
Welcome to the podcast for sure.
Yes. Alrighty, y'all. I think we've waited long enough, right? Like,
Oh,
I
I've
think.
got one more.
Oh, okay.
So, since we're talking about Dark Empire and I are about to get
Yeah.
into it,
Yeah.
I showed off some of my single issues recently. I actually had not taken these out of the bag yet. These are like perfect
Ooh.
gem mint tins. They are just in pristine condition. I've never seen Palpatine looking so crispy. You know what I'm saying? Um, I also have a couple of more Dark Empire related items of merch. The Dark Empire source book. I was doing some Trevor-esque reading of the short stories, the original fiction in the West End game source
Wow.
books earlier in the week, and there's like the whole story of Boba Fett getting out of the Sarlacc pit. You got some classic
Oh,
Cam
wow.
Kennedy art up in here. Really some amazing stuff, and I'm happy to have this in my collection. Some of these hardcover Western game source books have become quite rare, and then I've got one action figure that I picked up. Well, I think it might have got this when I was hanging out with Freddy in sunny California there on our thrift
Oh.
store adventure. I've
Yeah.
got I like to call it
Scooby-Doo Luke.
Vampire Collar Luke Skywalker. Yeah.
I didn't know they made figures from Dark Empire.
Well,
Yeah.
Emma, I'm so glad you asked.
Okay.
They made a handful of expanded universe figures, a little line. They've got a picture of the line on the back from Dark Empire. There's Vampire Collar Luke. You've got
Yeah. That's
Leia, who saves the day, save the day Leia, as I like to call her. You've got Palpatine, young and
Is he?
clothed.
Wait, what? They make a figure of that?
but he has a robe on. So
Aw.
somebody's gonna have to buy it
Unfortunately.
and dip it into a vat of goo. Anyway, we'll get there. So then there's a part of this expanded universe figure line from 1998. There's also Kyle Katarn, Admiral
Mhm.
Thrawn, which I have. There's a space trooper from Dark Forces, and I kid you not, and I don't know what this is from. There's a red robed like royal guard, but his armor looks like a kind of medieval knight, and he's carrying a battle axe, and he has a samurai helmet. So
Yeah, that's
whatever that's from, I'm gonna need it in my life pretty
Yeah.
soon.
That's Star
And
Wars
Jared,
right there.
If I'm not mistaken, that card is not just a flat card, right? There's a diorama inside.
It will. I don't know that I'm gonna pop it. I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep it in the package.
I
Yeah, if
respect
you notice,
that.
if you notice it, if you can see it on the camera there, it's got like a little bump in the card there, and you cut
It
it out,
does.
and
It's correct.
it's a whole Dark Empire diorama.
What?
Pretty
Gonna
cool
have to
stuff.
buy another set of the figures
Yeah,
to
yeah,
construct
yeah.
the diorama.
And then our Patreon, like a Patreon goal could be to buy one of those Palpatine figures, have Jared, one of your kids, make slime, and you can figure out the rest.
We're gonna do that this weekend.
Do
in
it.
fact, I think that has now risen on the priorities
If there's,
list.
I mean, that is the reason to join Patreon. I mean, when I asked Jared for the pitch earlier, that's the pitch.
For sure. Yeah, don't tell Corey that that's on the idea.
Right. Yes. No, that will stay between us. Someday he'll realize, wait, what
I
did
smell
they
a
do behind
veto.
my back?
That's right.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, let's keep this Dark Empire train rolling here. So Dark Empire, very, very infamous comic, six-issue miniseries. It ended up being a trilogy, but we're only talking about the first, the first part of that trilogy, the actual first part, not like, one that comes in the middle, like Star Wars tends to do.
Right.
It is written by Tom Veitch, with art by
May he rest
Cam
in peace.
Kennedy. Yes, may he rest in peace. Art by Cam Kennedy, letters by Todd Klein, and the cover art is by Dave Dorman, who we mentioned earlier on
Yes.
in the show, and it
Mhm.
was edited by Barbara Kessel. It's a very Star Warsy last name there. And it
Oh,
was first
cool.
published in December 1991. So
With the publication facts here. All right,
Yes.
just for a second.
Yeah.
Last week we did the old school Marvel stuff, which ended in 86. This was the first Star Wars comic published in 5 years. And it
Oh.
immediately followed that goofy, wacky, wild, bright, cartoony comic book.
yeah, with this.
And then you open up to dark and broody Luke Skywalker. I mean, it is
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
change of pace
Such a great
from
point.
what had come before. So the history, this enhanced my reading so much more than ever before, having just read a bunch of that Marvel stuff going into this.
That's fascinating. I honestly didn't think of that before. And I'm glad you brought up art because I pulled a bunch of images here to show in a slideshow throughout the show. But yeah, the art is absolutely fascinating, and I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah.
Coming up later, and so I think we always like to start our episodes off with a nice little summary, and it just so happens that Legends Lookback has done this roundtable before. Jared, tell the fine folks when this roundtable took place.
Well, there was a little something that happened in March of 2020 that derailed the world a little bit. You know what I'm talking about?
AKA, we found out about Naked Palpatine. That's what derailed the world.
The beginning.
Well, what happened was Freddy and I were both like, I don't know. Whoa! Leia just glared me.
I didn't mean to put that one in the slideshow, but I'm kind of glad it ended up in there.
Glared a hole in me. So I was trying to explain why I came up with the naked Palpatine meme.
Get it right. Okay, that's what she's saying. Get it right.
Basically, when COVID hit, Freddie and I were like, how are we going to keep making the show? Like, our lives are derailed. We just didn't feel like doing anything. Everybody was paralyzed by fear, and some of us were sick. And
the unknown.
Sure, the unknown. And I said, let's just do our favorite stories. And so we went back and forth for 6 weeks of, I picked my favorite story. He picked his favorite story. I picked my second favorite story. We just went back and forth. And so we read in April of 2020, we did Dark Empire, maybe right after Truce at Bakura, or Truce at Bakura was immediately afterwards. So we just, this was our comfort food. We needed something that we loved and was familiar to us to get us through. And it did. And it cured the world of COVID.
That's what happened. It was all Naked Palpatine and Hot Dog Boba Fett and Scooby-Doo Luke Skywalker. They were the ones that did it.
I was reading over this summary earlier, trying to figure out if this was the one that I wrote or if you wrote a new one. And I found the words, some epic grandstanding. And I was like, yep, I wrote that for sure. That was me.
Fun fact, I haven't actually read this summary yet, like at all. I just copied and pasted it, so I'm really looking forward to this now. All right, what do you say? Let's alternate bullets here. I'll go, then Jared, then Freddy. Freddy, you're able to access this, right?
Yep. I can see everything.
Good. Cool. All right, I will start with the first bullet point. All right, the Imperial holdouts have dug in on Coruscant, aka the Imperial Center, and the rebels are entrenched in a brutal battle to free the galactic capital. A dark and broody Luke Skywalker feels the stirrings of something powerful and maleficent making its presence known, which triggers an energy storm / hyperspace wormhole. By the way, hyperspace wormhole is literally what is said in the comic. That is not a descriptor. That is canon, or legends, I guess. Which lands Luke in an Imperial dungeon ship. And I remember the word Mandalorian walls being uttered, which is so fascinating that he knew that the walls were Mandalorian.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It
hit different. It hit different since all the Mandalorian stuff we've got recently.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what else hit different? The word maleficent. I cannot believe I used that.
I know.
What
I
a
was
great
like...
writer wrote these notes. It takes him to Biss, the new Imperial homeworld in the deep core, where he comes face to face with Emperor Palpatine himself.
He's fully clothed right now.
He reveals that the dark side allows him to transfer his essence to clones of himself, and that he's in need of a new apprentice. Desperate and hopeless to defeat Palpatine once and for all, Luke pledges himself to become Palpatine's new Sith apprentice.
At first, I thought that said he's in need of a new appearance.
Yes,
and it would have made sense because of all the cloning stuff too. That's so weird.
All right. Well, meanwhile, Han, Leia, and the rebellion find themselves on the wrong end of the Empire's new superweapon, the Hoover Vacuum, or the World Devastators. The Imperial forces under Luke's command decimate the rebellion's forces. Worried for Luke, Leia mounts a rescue mission that takes them to Nar Shaddaa to recruit some of Han's smuggler buddies to smuggle them into Biss. Let's see, there they are, surprised to encounter another threat from beyond the grave. Boba Fett, where? He chases them off Nar Shaddaa, and Han and Leia narrowly escape with the aid of Han's ex, Shala. They eventually make it to Biss, where the Emperor unveils his real plan to transfer his essence into Han and Leia's unborn child. This is the craziest thing.
This story goes places, y'all. It goes some places.
Just reading this, it just refreshes your memory of everything that happens in this comic. And we're not even done yet.
There's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, folks. If you've never read this before and you're listening to this, I mean, wow, just crazy. Okay, so Luke warns Leia that she never should have come, and that he has things totally under control. And Leia knows that he's lying because he said that a ton before. He never has it under control, and he's turned to the dark side, but not really, and it's for a good reason, or that's what he tries to tell her. He has to learn the secrets of the dark side to sabotage the Emperor's efforts and take him down from the inside. Han and Leia see how far Luke has fallen and aren't convinced that he can handle this alone. Luke downloads a lot of Imperial secrets into R2-D2, aids in Han and Leia's escape, but then tricks them with a force projection into appearing as if he had left Biss with them. But instead, he stayed behind to slay all of Palpatine's naked, lifeless clone bodies and duel a young, slimy nude emperor. I thought it said dude.
I can't believe you got this paragraph. I'm so pleased that you got
How did this at work?
This paragraph. That's right.
Okay.
This is the second time this has happened to Emma. First was at the convention.
Oh my god, that's right. That's right.
During the panel, she had to talk about naked Palps. Yeah, he stayed behind to slay all of Palpatine's naked, lifeless clone bodies and duel a young, slimy, nude emperor. It's no big deal.
Right. And then literally the next paragraph, the next sentence says, for real. And yeah, I mean, that's a helpful clarifier. Luke fails to defeat the young, slimy, nude emperor, but has taken out all of the extra clone bodies. So at least he has that going for him. But he's probably scarred for life by now.
And we're approaching the finish line. Leia returns to Luke on the Emperor's Star Destroyer, which is attacking the rebels on Pinnacle Base. There, she duels Luke in lightsaber combat, convinces him to turn back from the dark side and to take on the Emperor again. After some epic grandstanding, there it is. After some epic grandstanding from the Emperor, Luke duels him and then combines his force energy with Leia to overpower Palps with light side force energy, trapping him in his own force storm. Gotcha! Allowing them to escape. The book closes with the line, "The Jedi Knights will rise again."
Epic.
Which
That's
I
part one.
got goosebumps reading that line.
Yeah. It was
It's a good ending. It's
Wow.
a terrible ending, but it's a good line. It's a really good line.
At the end of reading this, I kind of felt like I had just ran in a circle and then nothing came of it.
You know, the best thing that can describe this book, if anybody asked me to put it into a sentence, right, it would be the one that you just mentioned there, Emma, which was, instead he stayed behind to slay all of Palpatine's naked, lifeless clone bodies and duel a young, slimy, nude emperor for real. Like that is really at Dark Empire.
I'm sold.
That is the premise of it. Like, that is the one sentence pitch that you should give to people.
Yes.
I mean, they'll be interested immediately.
Jared, you need to post that on every forum where there's a review available for Dark Empire. Amazon, anywhere. This is the line that should sell.
Honestly, the amount of times I've loaned out my big, thick hardcover Dark Empire trilogy to friends and have been like, I'm not even going to try to explain everything that happens here. But the Emperor comes back from the dead. Luke turns the dark side, and it's my favorite Star Wars story ever. And I've loaned this thing out until I figured out how much this big hardcover collectible copy of Dark Empire trilogy is worth. And I have not loaned it out in 6 years because let's just say it's high. It's very high.
It's very high. It's very high. I love that. Wow. Whew, okay, so I mean, let's start with the characters. There's a lot to talk about, but I think starting with the characters makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And let's start with Luke, the one that we certainly have the most questions around as we're going into this book. So the book starts out, and we find out that Luke and Lando's ship has crashed, but they can't find Luke. But Leia senses a very dark presence. And so she kind of has a sense that something is going on, kind of funky with the dark side, and it maybe got Luke. And so by this point, for me as somebody that hasn't read much Legends, I was able to infer from this that, okay, Leia has had Jedi training, and I also was able to infer that she and Han had kids at that point. By that point,
Yeah,
and so it was
that's a
good
big
at
plot
setting that
point.
up, I think, for new Legends readers.
That's actually a point of contention. There was a lot of drama. One of mine and Skooma Joe's favorite little pieces of trivia is the love-hate relationship that exists between Tom Veach and Timothy Zahn. They friggin' hate each other.
I didn't know
And
that.
oh yeah, it's the greatest rivalry in the history of Star Wars. You heard it
Yeah.
here first, folks. And Zahn stole Veach's Leia Jedi children out from underneath Veach. So Veach wanted to put Leia having the first Skywalker, baby in this comic, and then Heir of the Empire ended up coming out shortly before Dark Empire because they were being developed. And both came out in '91. Both this and Heir of the Empire came out in '91.
That's wild.
And so he had to do rewrites to put Leia already having had children in the story, but yet she's still pregnant, going to have another child. So she went from 0 children to 3 in the first year of expanded universe storytelling proper in '91, which is crazy.
Wow,
Yeah.
a lot of one-upsmanship there, for sure.
That's just scratching the surface. I'll stop with the trivia.
Okay,
We can get into the discussion.
Fascinating. Okay, so obviously by this point we hadn't really gotten into the the full stint of expanded universe content. Like Jared had mentioned, this was the first thing since the Star Wars 1977 run had ended, at least comics wise. And all of a sudden we see Luke and he's like turned to the dark side, and he's, as Jared puts it, dark and broody. And so what do you think led him to that? I know in the comic it says that he had to do it, but he never really says why. Why do you think he chose that? Freddy, I think I'll start with you.
Yeah, I've always thought that his purpose was just like what someone would quote Sun Tzu, right? The art of war. Get close to your, get as close to your enemy as you can, right? Closer than your friends. Keep your enemy closer. I forget the quote, honestly. I can't even remember
Friends
it.
close and your enemies closer.
Keep your enemies really close, basically. And I feel like that's what Luke does here. Is he spends the time to understand Palpatine, to learn what he has to offer, what the dark side is. But at the same time, it's a very tasty treat, right? It's almost like chocolate. He's like, oh, this is kind of nice, all this power, and he gets carried away, right? And his whole purpose is to, in my opinion, to just discover more of it so that he can use it against him. But
right, this is one of 2 '90s stories to do exactly the same plot point, and I think they're both Tom Veach.
I love that.
Which he had a background as a monk, so was interested in this light and dark dichotomy from like a philosophical kind of theological perspective. And so this particular plot element I find really fascinating. How close can you get to the line before you find yourself the very thing you swore to destroy? And so he thinks like, okay, obviously Palpatine outsmarted us. We thought we killed him. We've got to get so close to us to find out how he's surviving. But by getting so, it's like Icarus, right? He flew so close to the sun that it ended up consuming him. And then it takes his sister's love to bring him back. I mean, that's all really poetic and Shakespearean.
Yeah. It follows the same kind of mythology that George Lucas followed, in my opinion.
I think so. I agree.
Yeah, it was integral. Like, it's integral to his arc, like, right? Because I was like, kind of the only place he had left to go in some sense, like we've always seen him as like this goody two shoes, rebellion hero, but we hadn't seen him as like someone that you weren't quite sure of his morality and stuff like that. And finally we were able to question Luke Skywalker in a piece of media, and I think that was a really interesting spin on the character.
And it was in some drafts of what might have happened in Return of the Jedi. And some fans wanted that, and then it's not what happened. It's one of the complaints against the film was that it tied a nice, tidy, neat bow on the end of the original trilogy, which some folks wanted him seizing the throne, and it ends with Luke turns to the dark side. Just not the way the story goes, but it could have gone that way. And so this for me is not like my canonical Legends Luke. It is in my head Legends, right? It is its own separate kind of what if story. However, certain writers try to work it in more than others. Anderson, KJA especially tries to tie it in. But all right, so I have been reading some post Return of the Jedi stuff recently, both in Legends and canon. Some stuff. Every time Leia looks at me like that, I'm like, what did I do wrong? I've been reading some like stories about what happens immediately after Return of the Jedi, just by coincidence lately. And Princess and the Scoundrel deals with this a little bit, which is coming up soon. I think it's right in that same niche little time period as Freddy's favorite book, Truce at Bakura, right? Yep. Luke has been through the grinder.
Yeah.
He experienced some soul-crushing stuff in having redeemed his father, but then his father died to save him, and his father was a intergalactic genocidal maniac. Also, he has to tell his sister, by the way, who was tortured by this same maniac, that
but
she's
also
part of the family.
Hero of the Republic, right, at the time.
Sure.
This amazing person.
Then he watches his corpse burn on the fire of Endor. And this, to me, is where the whole story hinges that makes Dark Empire work. Like, in terms of Luke's arc, especially. Go back, everybody, as soon as this episode is over, cue up the last 5 minutes of Return of the Jedi. The look on Luke's face as everybody else is yub-nubbing around Endor.
Yeah.
And they are partying, and Lando's got this big goofy smile.
He's clapping.
And they're banging on Stormtrooper head drums. And Luke, however, is not a part of the party. Luke is off watching his father's corpse burn. That changes a person.
Yeah.
That changes. And so this story is him dealing with the aftermath, to me.
I love that.
Of that internal conflict. That's what makes Dark Empire work for me.
It was like, in order for him to be closer to his dad, he had to be in the position that his dad was in.
Oh, in this frame right here, I just went away of like there's a lot of Vader imagery in this story.
With like shadows and stuff like
so
that.
Cool.
Both of your points are fascinating to me because, and this kind of leads into my next question is, did you like buy his fall to the dark side? And I honestly did not, because I thought it felt extremely sudden and like there was no lead in. But now that now Jared, you're talking about how he feels, what we can infer about his feelings at the end of Return of the Jedi. It's like now it kind of makes sense. Like, I mean, I think I would have some evil feelings as well, because you're like, well, how did my life get to this point? It's all, you got to be like angry at the galaxy at that point, and that would certainly cause, it would cause someone to turn evil. So I'll take it that both of you bought his turn to the dark side.
I mean, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Like I said, it to me exists in my mind as an alternate universe.
Yeah.
What happened after Return of the Jedi? It's a little off the beaten path compared to, I would consider, the more mainline Legends approach, which is Luke becomes the teacher. However, this does cue up that whole arc really well. The Jedi will rise again. Jedi Knights will rise again. At the very last line, tease up the Jedi Academy trilogy, like that whole this starting the new generation of
the
Jedi,
future
new
of Star
Jedi
Wars,
Order.
really.
Sure, it does tee it up, but I buy it. I buy it from the angle in which I buy it completely. That, like, when I read Dark Empire, I commit mentally.
Right. You need to.
You have to. But then also part of me is like, Luke is a good boy. He drinks hot chocolate and he teaches the kids, and he saves the day.
Isn't this on your arm?
Yeah, that's my tattoo. It's
Oh snap! Wait, I gotta get a one shot. Hang on.
Yeah, that's the one that inspired the ink. It did.
Dude, I totally forgot about that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
For those on our audio podcast, Jared's tattoo is inspired by a very sick shot of the Millennium Falcon in the Dark Empire comic. It's so cool, dude.
It's
Seriously.
rad.
Amazing.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I love that
That's
this
super rad,
comic
man.
means enough to you to the point where you're like, I want to get this tattooed on my body.
It truly does. I could talk about it all day, and we've got so many more questions.
Yeah, certainly. So the next character I want to talk about, I feel like we could talk about Luke, all night, but let's move on to his other half in many ways, and that's Leia. And like I mentioned earlier, at this point, she's been trained as a Jedi, but again, she's not like a practicing Jedi or anything like that, or at least it doesn't seem that way to me.
She's a back pocket Jedi. Like on a rainy day.
Right, like if she needs it, you know what I mean? She's like
Pinch hitter.
She's got her like concealed carry license for her lightsaber. You know what I mean? She's like, she's ready. And yeah, she's got 2 kids with Han, still doing work with like the rebellion and stuff like that, the New Republic. And so I find this prompt in here in the notes pretty interesting. She has a kind of a limited role in the overall comic in that she isn't in a lot of the action until the end. Up until then, she's kind of the brains of the operation. The one that is able to communicate to Luke through the Force and kind of understand what he's thinking, what he's feeling, even where he is. And so in many ways, she's the one that saves Luke, because she's the one that pushes and pushes and pushes, saying that Luke is in trouble. He says he's okay, but he's in trouble. I know, I can feel it. And then she's the one that actually goes and physically saves him, fighting with a lightsaber and interacting with Palpatine again and putting herself on the line. And so I'm wondering what you guys think of this. Do you consider her to be one of the real heroes of Dark Empire? Because I know I do. I think without her in this story, I think this would have ended much differently. Han would have said something like, "Oh, Luke, he's always getting himself into trouble. He'll be fine," and then everybody else would have ignored him. But Leia's the one that really saved the day here. So, and without Luke, who knows what would have happened to the New Republic? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Start with Freddy.
Yeah, I feel like Leia is the keystone character in this story. Without her, a lot of things wouldn't happen. So Luke would probably stay where he's at. He would stay in the dark side. I'm not sure if anyone could bring him back other than Leia. And the Emperor has the perfect vessel for his essence transfer, and it has to be a Skywalker, in my opinion. And the only person that's going to have a Skywalker available is Leia. Right? Like Luke is not canoodling with anybody yet. Not until Truce of Bakura he starts, but
Jared's face. Oh my god.
I mean, he canoodles a lot. With a lot of there's a lot of canoodling.
Maleficent and canoodling in the same episode, huh?
So without Leia, there is no Dark Empire, in my opinion. Dark Empire would just be Luke being evil forever, and we would have, I don't know what Luke's Darth name would be, but yeah, I think without
Darth
her,
Hot Chocolate.
Darth Hot Chocolate.
Darth Vader Jr.
Yeah, I feel like she's the keystone in this story.
And I haven't remembered this story as Leia's story. It for me is Palpatine and Luke.
Yeah. I remember it that way as well, which is fascinating.
For this read through for me, she came through as a much stronger character. I still think there's some shortcomings with how she's written.
Agreed.
In terms of there's an indefinable Leia quality that this doesn't quite capture. Just something about Carrie Fisher's rebellious spirit. Yeah, the life that she brings. And this instead is just like dark and brooding. But she saves the day. And she's birthing a new generation of Skywalkers. I mean, it's an interesting story for her. She gets her own cover. Which one is this? Yeah.
Oh, I have that image. I believe.
Yeah, she's front and center in the cover for issue 6.
Yeah,
Mhm.
there
which
we
is
go.
cool, holding the lightsaber.
So cool.
It's an epic pose for her. So the story understands how important she is.
Yeah.
She discovers the holocron, and I like the grace she gives Vima de Boda. That's an important element. That's followed up on an issue in Dark Empire 2, the sequel series, that she treats this washed out Jedi traitor with gives her a redemption arc, which is cool. Which that's Leia to me.
Yeah.
Very political, being able to find a fringe character that everybody else has written off and pull them into the fray. So yeah, a
Jared,
very
one thing
important
that
character.
I'd like
there we
to...
go. That shot right there too of her
Yeah.
snap hissing the lightsaber is the most epic thing ever.
Yeah.
Vroom, whatever it says right there. Vroom, there it is.
There it is.
One of the things that you just mentioned there is, her I guess it's more of not, I guess, her independence, her attitude, right, that she has, that we've seen in several things, and Carrie Fisher's attitude, right? It's really Carrie Fisher that brought Leia to life, in my opinion. So the one thing I just want everyone to remember is, when this book was written, or when this comic was written, it was in the 90s, right? And what did we expect to see around there? Super macho, Baywatchy style stuff, right? Top Gun. And the fact that they didn't really try to bring a sexy Leia or a wimpy damsel in distress that we don't expect Leia to ever really truly be, right? Like, she was waiting the Death Star. She's like, all right, it's about time.
Yeah.
And I really respect Tom Veitch for writing against the norm, I suppose.
Okay, it's against
I'm
the
down
grain.
with that.
Though today it's not quite up to standards. To a certain
Right.
extent, it was ahead of its time. I'm with you on there.
Yeah, I can certainly agree with that. I mean, I would say that there's definitely some like dialogue moments between her and Han where, like, in a moment she would be, more take charge of a situation than Han, but for some reason in the comic it was him telling her like what's what, and that always kind of like caught me funny. But then I had to remember, like, oh yeah, this was written in the 90s. But you're right though, like, from other things from Legends that I've seen around this time, it really respected her quite a bit more than, I mean, if you take like
Splinter of the Mind's Eye.
Yeah, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, even. Yeah.
Can't swim.
I'm even
That's
thinking
5 years later than this, and this is way ahead of that.
Yeah, I'm even thinking like Shadows of the Empire, right? Like that was kind of near here, right?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, totally.
Like even
Absolutely.
then, I mean, so many things to
Okay,
say.
speaking of Leia, there's a scene. I don't know if you've got the image for this. I legit almost fell out of my chair reading this time around, and I've seriously read Dark Empire maybe 100 times.
Okay.
I almost fell out of my chair when she flips Palpatine out of his bed and runs away and dumps him on
I
the
do have
floor.
that. Yeah. Here, here it is.
All right, Palpatine's
good.
dying. He's this particular clone body is deteriorating, which is followed up on in Crimson Empire. Like you find out who the saboteur was who sabotaged all his clones. But in this, he's dying. He's like, "Help me to bed. I'm just a feeble old man." And she's like, "Take this, feeble old man," and dumps him onto the friggin' floor and runs away.
Oh my god. It's
Which
so
is
good.
so good. She totally would do that.
She definitely would. Oh my gosh. Her whole interaction with Palpatine, I thought was
She's
really
unafraid.
perfect. She's unafraid, even though he is oddly threatening her, like with some weird stuff. Like, I mean, I'm gonna.
I want to see the baby, and then put my life force in him.
What did he say? Yeah, he's gonna like put himself in her baby, and I'm like, what? Like what?
Yeah. That's some gulp stuff right there.
Yeah. But she held her own in that situation, and I'm glad that you brought that specific panel up, because wow, I mean, if that doesn't show her attitude and how, Carrie Fisher even portrayed Leia, I don't know what else will.
Right.
I love that. So it was alluded to multiple times in the book that Leia holds the future to the Jedi. Even Palpatine says something like something about Luke being more trained, but it's not him that's the key to the future. It's Leia. And so I'm wondering, how do you guys think that, like specifically, that she holds the future to the Jedi? Is it just because she has Force-sensitive children, or do you think it's some other reason? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I've
I think
personally not thought of it on any deeper level than she's gonna birth some
Yeah.
babies,
Well,
but
and that very
yeah,
could well be the answer. Yeah.
I think it just comes down to this interesting thing that we've been following for over 30, or gosh, how many years are we now? 70. I'm not gonna do math right now, but I did
Yeah.
it all day today. Not gonna do it right now.
45.
40 some years, right? We've been following the saga of the Skywalker family, and starts with Shmi. We see Shmi, so the mother. We don't see anything further than that, not yet at least. We see Anakin, we see Luke, Leia, and then in Legends we see further than that, right? We see a lot further than that, and in canon we see it continues the line until they want to stop the line, obviously, because it's honestly a very taxing thing to uh, do something that George worked on. I get that part, but that's what I feel like what we're trying to follow here is like this lineage of the Skywalkers, and it's almost inevitable for any Skywalker to birth another hero or villain, in my opinion. And it's just in the bloodline. The forces, the midi-chlorians, I guess, if they existed at this time, they didn't. Maybe in George's head, he was formulating it, but they were the carriers of the Force, in my opinion. So, and we were just obsessed with following this family, and we still are to this day. I love it.
I like that explanation a lot. That if there's any Skywalker out there, um, they're gonna create some sort of disturbance.
Yeah.
Not to make a pun, but they're gonna cause some sort of a disturbance in the way of things, whether that's for good or bad. Because you're right. Like, I mean, Anakin started out as good and then turned bad. So, if she is the future of the Jedi, who says that that's for good? You know what I mean? He could have meant like the future of the Jedi in a bad way, like the downfall of the Jedi or something like that. I know that's not what like happens exactly, but I find it interesting. I'm not sure Palpatine knew exactly what he was talking about.
It's not just that though. Thinking about it this way too, in a different point of view, is I feel like everyone knows Leia can never be evil, including
Yeah,
including Palpatine, right?
yeah,
So if anybody is gonna push the Jedi forward, it's always gonna be Leia, because she, as much of a pinch hitter Jedi she is, she's a Jedi. None,
yeah,
no doubt about it. And if anyone's gonna train a bunch of people to kill the Emperor and his clones forever, it's gonna be Leia. That's just
yeah,
her tenacity, right? Like
It's a great
it's gonna
point. Yeah,
be,
here Luke
yeah,
shows that he's fallible, and
yeah.
yeah,
Leia is so strong-willed that she actually poses a bigger threat to Palpatine in this story
yeah,
than Luke did. In some ways, in Legends, the way the story ends up unfolding, of course, she's pregnant with the third child. In this story, those three children become the three tentpole characters for the continuation of this story. Yeah, with Jason, Jaina, and Anakin, they are the three most important characters who make the Legends universe, the great storytelling empire that it becomes. Without them, the, these stories could not have become nearly what they became.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. I'm just glad to see another side of Leia's story. If you've watched any other episode of this show, you know that I'm a big Leia fan, and I really enjoy getting to see these other sides of her. And it just makes me long for a canon Leia Jedi training story. I know we get that little flashback in Tross, but I want the story, like the whole story. It'd be fascinating.
Emma, have I got the book for you?
What is it?
It's called The Joiner King. It's the
Ooh.
first of the Dark Nest trilogy, also known
boy.
as the Bug Books. Don't
Uh-oh.
look at their rating on Youtini.com. Do not look at what they're rated as. You do not want to
Okay.
know their score. They're not most beloved books. But Leia is trained by a reptilian Jedi named Saba 17 in Legends. It's Legends. But
Okay.
it's so cool. Her relationship with
Interesting.
don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that.
Okay.
Her relationship with her Jedi Master is really a cool thing. That eventually they get there. It takes them 30 years.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to check that out because, yeah, I mean, if anything, this reread of Dark Empire, because I have read it before, but this read of Dark Empire has definitely made me realize how much I really enjoy the story of Leia being a Jedi, even though she's not like full on Jedi. Even just, partial Jedi is really good. So
They lean into it hard in that trilogy.
yeah, for sure. All right. So next character that we're going to talk about is Han. So I love this quote. I'm glad you had it in your notes, Jared, from the original roundtable that you did, because I was literally going to write it down, and then I saw that it was already in there. It's on page 69, and it says, quote, "If Luke is such a great Jedi, why do I have to keep rescuing him?"
Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, because
Is that Leia? Or no, that's Han that says that.
That's Han. Yeah, it's very accurate. Like, I mean, when you think about it, he rescues him like all the time, and so many interesting parts to Han's character in this book. But specifically when we get to Nar Shaddaa is when it gets really interesting, because that's where in Legends he grew up, which is fascinating. It sounded like Corellia was like a neighborhood of some sort of Nar Shaddaa. Am I getting that sense correctly, Jared?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, anyways,
Corellia, it's a 5-system planet. There's 5 planets. Trallis. Do you want me to talk about all 5 of the
I would
planets?
like to hear it, yes.
No, I'm not going to list them all, but
Okay.
there's a lot explored about Nar Shaddaa in the Legends universe, the
Yeah.
Crispin trilogy in particular.
Huh.
All these characters that are in this, Mako and the other ones, they all get really great backstories in that trilogy, which is cool.
That's cool.
And
Yeah.
I think Han is written so well in this series.
I think so too. I think, his like kind of I guess his I don't think feistiness is the right word. I don't even think it is a word. But I don't know, maybe his like tenacity, or maybe even his like his passion for his friends and his family, I think really comes through a lot. And also, we get to see some glimpses of him being, a leader in the New Republic, getting to teach the new pilots about how to fly the new ships and stuff like that. And I think we get to see all the interesting sides that we would think about about Han Solo, and so we get to see some of his traditional like smuggler type of ways on Nar Shaddaa, because he has to meet up with some old friends, and I can't even remember their names. They felt like one of them was like
Shug Nix.
Shug, yes, yes.
Mako Spence.
Mako,
yeah.
Sala Zind.
Sala, yeah, Sala. So, he has to meet up with all of his old, like, smuggling friends, and they're really shady, and you can tell, like, you can't trust them. And so, do you think that his smuggler side was, well, I'm going to ask, like, a little two-parter here. Do you think that Tom Veitch meant to show his smuggler side, or do you think it was out of necessity? And number 2, do you think that his backstory or hints at his backstory were shown well, or do you think it was out of character?
I love it. I think it's great. You don't get any of Han's backstory in the original trilogy. You just pick up Han shoots Greedo in the bar, or just Greedo shoot Han, you know what I'm saying? And then he's off on the adventure. So then now we're going back in time. It's like, oh, hey, I've got this ex-girlfriend. It's probably no big deal, right? Huh? And I think the Nar Shaddaa looks awesome here. The washed out greens are so cool. It's got such a life of its own in expanded universe content beyond this. The idea that one of them hates Han because Han did him dirty. It's a little derivative of the Lando relationship.
Yeah,
but,
that's what I thought too.
I love the Nar Shaddaa arc. Of course, Boba Fett's hanging out down there. He knows Han's
Yeah.
like a dog going back to his vomit.
Eating hot dogs.
That's a great analogy, Jared. You know, because you know you and I just we've got two puppies running around. Who knows what they're doing right now?
That's right.
So that's a good thought. Freddy, what do you
Freddy,
think about?
You think it's derivative too
Yeah.
of Lando?
Yeah, I really like seeing Han's smuggler side, right? It's always fun seeing something that we hadn't seen already. We know of, right? We know Han's a smuggler. We know that he means well and he's doing this for money because he knows how. And it's interesting to see his friends, loosely termed friends, more like acquaintances that become friends out of necessity, I'd say. But yeah, it's really interesting seeing how I guess it's almost like, hey, this life probably isn't sustainable for kids, right? I think that's what we're trying to see here. It's like there's a change that Han needs to accept. He needs to go into from this singlehood that he's had his entire life, being alone, to being a dad, which is a whole different story. It's a whole different game.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, Freddie, because our next question does have to do with Han and his parenthood. I don't know how old are the Solo twins at this point, Jared?
I'm not the timeline guy.
Yeah, you're not the timeline guy.
The timeline with this is a little murky.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna say young children.
Young children. Okay.
Toddlers.
Because I was originally gonna ask, is he ready for fatherhood? But then I remembered, like, wait a second, he technically is a father, even though.
I mean, Han Solo is he's nothing but dad energy. He really is.
It's strange because, he definitely does have that dad energy like you're talking about. He cares a lot about the people he loves, and he's definitely got some dad jokes in him. That's a requirement. But it's always strange because I don't think I ever really look back at the character of Han Solo and think, yeah, that guy, he's a father to people. I don't know if I ever think of him in that way. You know what
Think
I mean?
of it. All right. He loves to drive his messy car. He hangs out with his dog friend. He gripes at his significant other nonstop.
Yeah.
He is he likes to hang out in bars. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a good guy at heart. He's
Right.
nothing but dad energy. Nothing but dad energy.
Right. Do you think that he's gonna be, like, understand? I mean, I know you probably you know the answer to this, but if you were reading this blindly, like I am, do you think that Leia should be worried about him being understanding of the whole, like, Jedi lifestyle thing? Because I think I would be, like, if I was Leia, I would be really worried because it doesn't seem like he's super open to it. Like, especially when we see when Leia meets the old Jedi on the street, like he doesn't believe in the stuff in the Jedi stuff, Oki religions and all that. And so if I'm Leia, I'm wondering, like, is Han gonna support what my kid's lifestyle is gonna have to be? You know what I mean?
That's a big sticking point in
Yeah.
Legends. I
Yeah.
mean,
Really?
it becomes a
Totally.
huge friction point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're right to be thinking that.
Good.
It's I would say you should always be concerned about Han, about everything, always. He's a disaster. But
Yeah.
it doesn't so much matter if he understands the Jedi thing as much as, like, he loves you and he'll be there for you.
Yeah.
And he may argue
He's got
and
your
gripe
back.
about every step of the way, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you have his back, he'll always have your back, and he'll never sell you short.
Yeah.
At probably at the cost of his own life, even.
True. Yeah, that's very true. He's very loyal as long as he gets loyalty in return. I like that. All right, next character. We knew it was coming. Emperor Palpatine. The dead speak, shall we say. And he's back. So this is kind of fascinating, especially, discussing this with The Rise of Skywalker, kind of taking a similar sort of, path in that Palpatine comes back via cloning. And so Dark Empire does this using some sort of a unnamed clone from an unknown source, and he's just got a bunch of them in waiting. And it doesn't seem like they last very long, or at least that's what I was gathering. And it also, to me, in Dark Empire, seemed like Palpatine wasn't like an individual. It seemed like he was like more of an energy. You know what I mean? An energy that just transferred from body to body. And in The Rise of Skywalker, you felt more like Palpatine was an individual and that he was a clone actually of himself. I didn't actually get that vibe that he was just an energy. And so I'm kind of wondering what y'all's thoughts are on the sort of comparison between Dark Empire and The Rise of Skywalker in how they handle Palpatine not only coming back, but also how they handle the whole cloning thing, because cloning can get very messy. I think we're all aware that, you know, that lays some dangerous foundations. So I'm curious about your thoughts regarding those two things.
I've got thoughts. Well, Freddy's trying to sort out his audio there a little bit. In the middle of a move, he's getting it all working smoothly. I think, first of all, Palpatine's essence transfer plot is so much better suited to a comic book than a multi-million-dollar film.
Yes.
That's the conclusion to a trilogy that Palpatine wasn't in. And I like Rise of Skywalker more than most folks, but I think that the comic does it a lot better, because it's implausible enough to like, hey, you throw it in the comic book. All right, sure, we'll go with it.
Yeah, it's like comics do crazy stuff all the time. Why not?
Exactly. this is a comic. It sounds better, Freddie. It's a comic book story to me. Secondly, it is explained better in this to me. You get to see the room full of cloned bodies, and he's basically saying, I can take one of two things: a baby or a mindless body, but I've got to be able to overpower the mind that's in it. And so that is all logical. He explains it a little bit. There's a little bit of exposition, just like one page. It's not anything. Rise of Skywalker gives you nothing in terms of like explaining this, other than it's a dangerous Sith ritual, and you better watch out or I'll take your brain.
And he did it poorly because he's like got these ugly fingernails and stuff like that. Like he looks sickly, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's fine with me, because in this he's showing that the bodies decay, they age.
That's true.
Poorly accelerated, and so all of that creates a sense of urgency as a storytelling mechanism. And then you get the young Palpatine, and then the next issue there's a middle-aged Palpatine, and then the next issue there's an old crusty Palpatine, and he's like, clock's ticking, I gotta take your baby, right? So all of that is
gotta take your baby.
all of that is interesting. It works in a comic book. Next issue he's older, but most importantly, in Return of the Jedi, there's another piece of just a nugget, little storytelling thread. Just like Luke looking upon Vader's burning corpse sets up Luke's arc in this, there's a moment in Return of the Jedi that makes all this make sense to me. Palpatine is not worried for his own safety when Luke and Vader are in the middle of their duel. Palpatine never bats an eyelash. He is not in the least bit concerned. Luke is standing right there, ready to friggin' murder him. And Palpatine says, take your weapon and strike me down. And then your journey to the dark side will be complete. He's clearly got a contingency plan.
Yes.
He's got a contingency plan. I cannot watch Return of the Jedi and think Palpatine is in danger.
Why are you making these good points? I mean,
I've been thinking about this story for 20 years.
I mean, now I feel like I missed something totally obvious, because now that you're saying it, it's like so obvious.
If it makes you want to go back and rewatch the original trilogy, that's doing it right.
Yeah.
That's what the expanded universe does at its best.
Yeah, it's true. There's one thing that I'll never forget. Seeing George Lucas say this with his lips, and I'll never forget this. He said, if you did not see them die, don't think they are dead. and that was from his lips. And to this day, I feel like we never saw Palpatine die. And that is possibly a design from him to leave a possible string of a story that he can use later on. It's the smartest thing. It makes sense. And to see, first of all, to see this Dark Empire talk about essence transfer, I feel like this must have been a George Lucas thing that he's been wanting to do. So to see it come alive in the sequels, I mean, first of all, I was excited. I was super excited to see it. I said, this is something we've been seeing since the 90s. We've seen essence transfer. And then, of course, there are people who are arguing, and they should probably go back and read some of the tomes, the ancient tomes of Dark Empire, and see that this has been a thing, and there's an opening for it. I mean, we have battle meditation as well. The
greatest
powers,
force power of all time.
yeah, the force powers cannot. There's no boundary, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have, in my opinion, they both can happen in the same timeline.
Yeah.
One is just like, hey, we found your body. He's like, oh, I guess I gotta use this one. I don't have any clones left. I killed them all.
It's faking in space. Just go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think the comic does it better, in my opinion.
I would agree with that, definitely, because in the movie all we see is like pickled Snoke, and we are just supposed to infer.
Can we add that to Hot Dog Boba Fett? And
of course.
Pickled Snoke.
Now, as soon as the show's over, I'm gonna go downstairs and eat some of my refrigerator pickles, and I'm gonna be thinking about Snoke's craggly face.
All right, what other toppings do we need to come up with right now? Ketchup? Who's the ketchup in this story? I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, on the subject of Palpatine, some folks here in the chat. Shout out to Anakin Solo and Steve Hilton, both having some great comments. Talking about the fact that there's a Dark Empire audio drama. We've not talked about that on this episode.
Oh, I didn't know that. What?
Yeah, I've got. I'll share. I'll give you the goods when the show's over.
Okay.
You can borrow it. We'll say that much.
Okay.
You can borrow it.
Thanks, bro.
Just for legality's sake.
Right.
And the problem with now, I love them. They're great. Very well done.
Yeah, they are.
The only issue with the audio drama, you know what it is? You don't get to see naked palps.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with most media these days.
The smooth bits.
Smooth bits. Wow. Okay, on that note, do you guys think that this whole like cloning, I don't even know how to transition away from that, honestly, so I'm just gonna roll
it's a very,
right on by.
distracting thing.
Just a hard transition.
Yeah,
That's
hard transition, hard pivot. As I'm seeing these pictures roll by, I don't know who wrote this in the notes.
It's cheeks.
But it just says gooey, and then the next bullet point says something I don't know if I should say, but that's okay.
Hashtag smooth bits.
He does.
Smooth, yes. Yeah,
he has smooth parts. I wonder if that's open to interpretation in terms of like that's just how that's how Kennedy had to draw it in order to make it acceptable, or if Palpatine is intentionally creating these sterile clones. I've thought about this way too much. We can move on.
He's wearing like a green
you have a tattoo
leotard.
You have a tattoo with Dark Empire being the main emphasis of it all. It doesn't surprise me that this is stuff that we need to think about.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it's like, do they actually have nothing there, or is that?
I think it's intentional. He created clones that could not replicate so as to minimize risk in case one of his clones developed a mind. This is my theory. In case one of his clones went rogue, developed a mind of its own. That's how you ended up with Rey. Rey, the reason she exists is that the canon Palpatine did not give his clone smooth bits. That is the reason why. You heard it here.
I love it.
Jared, what?
Sweeping declaration. Because she's the son of, what's his name? Corbin? Dathan.
Daughter of...
She's the daughter of Palpatine's cloned
son, who did not have smooth bits, obviously.
Right. Obviously. That's the problem.
It makes sense, man. I love it.
It does now.
That's what ruined Palpatine's grand plan. The lack of smooth parts.
Yes.
It's there.
Okay. I can live with that. I think we've had enough Palpatine for tonight.
That's fine. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Agree.
No, but I mean, in all reality, we can't have too much naked Palpatine. I mean, we mention it every show. We try to fit it in somehow, so I'm glad we got to break it down and hear that theory, because now Now I'm like, wait, that could be really plausible, and I don't like it.
That's not the worst theory I've ever had.
No, I always
Today
just,
I had the idea that we could put RFID chips in the back of our Bibles for check-in at church. So when you walk in the door, you beep your Bible on the door to prove that you were at church. I mean, I'm telling you, I've had some really bad ideas. So this was not my worst.
I
love it.
mean,
We just went from Palpatine to that.
the
in a
RFID
heartbeat.
chips. Someone put, I saw on the news, someone put an RFID chip in their wrist, like
Yeah,
a
I've seen that.
scientist. Yeah, you saw that? So they can
Yeah,
like
I've seen that.
they can
Get in the
like when
door
it's time to
easier.
Apple Pay, they just go like that, and everybody's like, "What's happening?" That feels super Star Warsy to me. Anyways, last character we have to talk about is Boba Fett, and this is gonna be a very brief conversation because he was hardly in this comic at all. I also don't know who wrote this bullet point, but it does say not yummy at all. I like that.
He's
That's
not a
funny.
hot dog.
He's not a hot
That
dog.
was Freddy.
And in fact, now that was you. Now I'm super confused as to why, because I know I'm the one that started the hot dog Boba Fett meme, right?
Yeah,
But
you did.
let me pull up the picture for you. This is not hot dog. This is wait, I'm confused.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah,
it's
'cause
hot
it's
dog, not
Rice.
hamburger.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that's probably what I was thinking. Anyways,
He
here's
goes
hot dog Boba
lengthways
Fett.
down the page, right? Vertical.
Yes. So he's long.
Portrait mode.
You're right. Exactly. And even Han is looking like, whoa, why are you so like long like that, bro? Like, look at his face. Like he's like, what? That's the worst joke I've ever made.
It's the
This
best.
Um,
It's the
This
best.
is one of the best quotes in Legends history. The Sarlacc found me somewhat indigestible.
Yes, that was the other thing I
So
wanted
good.
to talk
Such a
about.
great line.
I completely forgot until I reread this today. I completely forgot that this line was in Dark Empire. I thought it was in a book or something like. I don't know what I thought it was in, but when I read that line, I was like, "Oh my god, it's so good!" And it definitely hits differently now, having Book of Boba Fett, and we get to see how he actually survives the Sarlacc pit and kind of see what happens after that. Because I mean, in this situation, like his armor looks a little different, but that's about it. Like he has a new ship, not slave 1, but slave 2.
2.
And then those are like the
Yeah.
only differences. But we actually get to see, like in Book of Boba Fett, his character kind of change from surviving the Sarlacc pit. So I want to ask you guys, like, obviously, he doesn't have a very large part in the story at all. He probably shows up in a few pages and that's it. The biggest thing that comes out of his being in this story is that we find out that he survived the Sarlacc pit. But do you guys see this as just a cameo, or do you think that there's something more to it? And this answer might depend on, because you guys have read the other 2 parts of the trilogy, and I have not. So I don't know if it ties in at all.
Freddy's the Boba Fett fanboy here.
Yeah, let's have you answer first.
Well, Boba Fett's parts, right? They always have to come in fairly epic, in my opinion. It's not just like you just roll his character right through. It has to be fairly robust. Just like the Sarlacc found me rather I can't remember the exact term, but indigestible.
Yeah.
And then of course you see him in Blood Ties, and he's facing a bunch of gangsters, I think, and they got all of their guns pointed at him, and he's not afraid. And then it goes immediately into a story of him trying to take a tooth from, I forget what character or what beast.
The Balrog.
Yeah, the Balrog.
Why
right?
do you know that, Jared? Like,
We've read it a few times.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right term or not. I just said a word.
Balrog or something like that. I
That
think.
might
I
be
think
from
you're
Lord
right.
of the Rings. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And in my opinion,
Balyeg. Is that a thing?
Balyeg,
I think that's it.
Balyeg, possibly. Where was I going with this whole thing? Anyway,
His entrances have to be epic.
yes. that's
they
what I
have
was
to
saying.
be epic, right? And too much, it depends, right? Like I feel like in my opinion, you can't have too much. You can never have too much of Boba Fett, but I feel like you need to keep him. You have to give him a rather small part. He can't have a main part.
That's
But
how
he has
he's
to be-
used in the original trilogy. Right?
Exactly. It has to be something that is still menacing. That is not. It's like a mosquito, right?
I think you
It's hard to
raise-
get rid of.
I think you raised a good point.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jared.
No, you
go
can
ahead
finish.
and. Oh no, I'm just saying like it's a story. It's a kink in the story that is a fun. To me, it's a fun write. It's a fun ride. It's going to be battling. It's going to be shoot 'em up, right? So if there's a, you can always count on Boba Fett basically to have a shoot 'em up, old west, I guess, kind of shootout, in my opinion. If you need that action, Boba Fett's where you go.
Oh yeah, this story uses Boba Fett just like the Nar Shaddaa stuff is kind of derivative of the Lando story arc. This is derivative of how Boba Fett's used in the original trilogy. Sure, you make a great point, Emma, in your leading question to say he's not in the story a whole lot. Was he really necessary? No. However, Dark Empire does not hold back. This is a let's take it to 11 kind of series, and as such, you got to splash some Boba Fett in there. Why not? This would be like, that High Republic whiteboard that has the word dinosaurs on there. That's a whole meme. This would be like if they actually did every single idea on the whiteboard.
That's true.
In a 6
I love that so much,
story
Jared.
arc. Sure, right. Like, of course, it's got dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs are naked, right? So it's just like they're vacuum cleaners. So
right.
This story, you don't say no. This is like an improv thing. We're just gonna say yes to everything, and fit it all in and make it work.
And they did, and it worked, right? In my opinion, it just it seems like a train wreck of many different things happening, but it just works. It works really well. Tom Veach.
You needed this for Tom's for I've said Tom Veach's story. You needed this for Han's story.
Yeah.
True. You did.
Han needed a real credible threat, and you've got it for a few pages.
Hot dogs.
Yeah.
Right. What if it was just the guy in a hot dog suit who said "Greetings, Solo" and shot him? That would still work for me. That would still work.
Yeah.
I would still love Dark Empire just as much. And then thirdly, my third point about Boba Fett is Cam Kennedy loves Boba Fett.
Yeah.
He has drawn a handful of Legends Boba Fett comics.
He's good at drawing Boba Fett.
And even today, you can go to his website and like buy custom drawn Boba Fett's from Cam Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna get one for myself one of these days. And so it's his favorite character. So I wonder if during one of the meetings he says to Tom Veach, I only have one request. I'm gonna put Boba Fett in this story. I don't know for sure. That's my headcanon.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think the one good thing going for it is that Boba Fett doesn't overtake the story in any way, which I think is a positive. But he still adds this cool factor to it. So I think it was a good balance.
I can imagine Tom Veach with a cigar. Hey, give me one of those bobas, and then he goes, hot dog or hamburger, and he goes, hot dog.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's how
goodness.
it happened.
Wow. I love that. That's hilarious. All right, before we start rounding down, I do have a few overarching questions that didn't really fit in any of the character sections. So this was a question from the old show notes that Jared sent me. I love the way it's worded, so I'm going to read it as a quote. What's up with Mon Cala always being attacked? It happens in canon with Clone Wars, Dark Lord of the Sith, and Mutiny at Mon Cala, and in Legends here and in Legacy, where they are almost killed by the Sith. So I do like the way that's worded.
I can't believe I wrote that. I thought you wrote this. Because
I didn't write that. No.
Mutiny at Mon Cala is your favorite story.
I know, which is why, props to you for getting Mutiny at Mon Cala of all things fit into a Legends episode. Bravo, sir. Yeah, bravo. No, you wrote that, dude. I didn't write that.
No way.
Yeah, so I mean, good for you. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. Big time. So yeah, Mon Cala is always getting in some trouble. I always find it, and I also find it interesting that it was called, what was it called? Calamari or something?
And then it's Dak in one of the stories. It's got a different name entirely.
Yeah, you told me about that. Wasn't that in the 77 run of the comics? It might have been.
It's also in Legacy. I think it's called Dak.
Dak, yeah.
What's up with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But
in this story, it's just straight up calamari.
Calamari, and I love that. It's like, well, what do we call this planet? I don't know. They're called the Mon Calamari. Let's just call it calamari. I don't know. Yeah, I wish that we kind of got to see a little bit more of the, of I guess calamari. I think it would have been interesting. Seeing the World Devastators kind of tear to shreds was sad though. It's like they think that Admiral Akbar kind of left them for dead, and then that kind of didn't end up well for them, and all because of his affiliation with the rebellion that leaves them as a big target for the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I find that pretty interesting. So,
Emma, what's the name of the time travel sci-fi theory that the timeline
multiverse.
always corrects itself? So like there's this movie, what is it called? The Final Countdown. I don't know. There's a movie where
Final Countdown.
people escape destiny. They escape their death, and then the rest of the movie, there's more and more.
Final Destination.
Final Destination. So there's more of the. I said Final Countdown. There's more and more tragic things happening to them, and they're trying to escape death, and it's like you cannot escape. You were supposed to die.
Yeah.
It's like a time travel theory that people have. Like you can't escape destiny, and that's what Mon Cala is. It has to be obliterated.
We just want to live.
In canon, in Legends. Yeah, it doesn't matter when and where, it will be decimated. You cannot escape it.
Right. It doesn't matter what timeline we're in, doesn't matter what the planet's called, it's gonna be torn to shreds. Yeah.
For sure.
That's right. They had that shark separatist, right? In the Clone Wars
Yeah.
cartoons. He was like a shark.
And he had like the deepest voice.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. That's fascinating. I remember the first time I read this, I was surprised to see, calamari, Mon Cala, whatever. I was surprised to see it in something this early, but it's always really cool to see planets kind of go from Legends and make the jump into canon. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, these are some early roots.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So Dark Empire has lots of world building. To name a few, we have the World Devastators, a new super weapon that is basically, if you haven't read this comic, they're basically vacuums. That's why we keep referring to vacuums in this episode, if you were curious.
And they're wet vacs, as we just discovered. Because they vacuum up a water world.
Yes. they're like a shop vac. And,
there you go.
And they suck up everything on a planet, right? The landscape of the planet, the oceans of the planet, the people of the planet. It just sucks it all up, and it kind of converts it to its raw elements. Okay, so you have a brand new super weapon there. Wild. And by the way, they just look like big floating boxes.
And there's a factory inside, so then it turns
That's the crazy
out
part.
spaceships.
What?
That's the crazy part.
That.
So everything that's sucked up, which this is the crazy thing. Every single thing, all the matter, organic, whatever, anything it sucks up goes into furnaces to make basically these robotic, right? They're robotic TIE fighters, boxy TIE fighters. Yeah.
Right, they're drones.
So like everything that gets sucked in there, just imagine it going into a furnace. That's terrifying.
So even
and
like
if it out a TIE fighter.
If it sucks up those poor Mon Calamari, they're also going into the furnace.
They're
sad.
Yeah. Their elements are being pulled apart for raw elements.
Oh god.
It's terrifying.
Wild. It is. It's one of the wackier things in the story.
Yeah, this is a real horrific super weapon. I mean, all super weapons are horrible in their own ways, but this one is unique.
If you don't like it, you can destroy them in the classic N64 video game Rogue Squadron. Rogue Squadron.
You shoot the legs to because I think the legs are like the repulsor lift. So if you shoot the legs off, it just eventually falls to the ground.
That's so cool. Is this the first place that they showed up, World Devastators, or was that the video game? Which came first?
Oh,
this did.
So it was in this.
Game was 96.
And then
in the story,
Rogue
the way they're defeated is not by crippling the legs, but they suck each other up.
Yep.
That's good. That go figure. So when one World Devastator sucks up another World Devastator, does it make another World Devastator in the factory?
No, it breaks the story. The story is over. It's like, all right, you did it. Congratulations.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. So another unique thing that we have with the world building are the E-Wings. E as in Emma.
These E-Wings are cool.
Yeah, they are. I also wonder why the only inspiration they have for ships are letters. Does anyone have any idea?
At this point
K-Wing.
At this point in time, there is eventually, yeah. The E-Wings, that to me was like, hey, we're making a sequel to the original trilogy. Like, we are going to make something on par with the original films. It's going to have every essential Star Wars element. We've got a huge, big bad villain, pull to the dark side. We've got, Boba Fett's back. What else? Super weapon. Yep, that's on the board.
Yeah.
How about also we need some. This to me has some really really strong world building for the planets. The
Yeah.
planets that Dark Empire establishes are, to me, established really clearly visually. I mean, look at that right there. The pink, the
Yeah.
pink spires on the what is that, Pinnacle Moon?
Yeah, Pinnacle Base, and those like crazy looking, bat.
They're chipmunk bats, right?
Chipmunk.
Chipmunk
Yeah,
bats,
they're
yep.
flying chipmunk bats.
Yeah, they got the big
Something.
cheeks.
Yeah.
And so it establishes the visual language of Star Wars really, really clearly. But one of those things is, we've got to have a spaceship with a letter.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, and those for those wondering, the K-wing comes into the before the storm. I think that's the Black Fleet crisis. So there you go, Emma.
Okay.
There's any letter, think of it, there might be a ship.
It was a
I
very
love
90s
that.
trope for the EU.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like that. So, yeah, lots of world building. Does anyone, Freddy, do you have something that's part of Dark Empire that we haven't mentioned yet that you absolutely love?
Well, I mean, the art, we
Yeah.
can keep talking about this art forever. I love it. It's extremely original and unique, in my opinion. You may find copycats, but there's nobody that does their art style the same as Cam Kennedy. You can see it from miles away, in my opinion. You see it and you're like, yeah, that's watercolor, that's for sure. And the fact that it's watercolor, I mean, I'm not sure if you've ever seen anyone work with watercolors, but watching a couple of YouTube videos and seeing what he did with these comics must have taken hours, but that's just pure skill.
Yeah. I mean, I remember doing the like Crayola watercolors when I was a kid. You
Yeah.
couldn't control where that stuff goes, and then
It goes everywhere like
Yeah.
sand.
yeah, and then to be able to like draw something as detailed as like the Millennium Falcon or something like that, that's wild. I mean, I'm glad that you brought up the art actually, because that's the one major question that I have left, and it's a big sticking point for me. I think I have a very unpopular opinion in that I don't think I enjoy it.
I mean, a lot of people don't. It's divisive.
Yeah.
You either love it or you hate it.
That's true. And I think the problem for me is that I'm a very visual person, and when I can't see like all of the colors of something, kind of drives me crazy. Like not knowing, I mean, I know what, Han Solo looks like, but how do I know at this point he doesn't have a head full of gray hair because his kids are driving him nuts? You know what I mean? Like,
it's
how do I
just
not know that?
stylized. It's just
I know.
it's stylized. I like that it's not trying to make it look exactly like the likenesses of the characters. That's probably the biggest sticking point I have with the art, is that the characters don't really look a whole lot like the actors. But it's stylized, like it's interpreted.
Yeah.
It's a riff on Star Wars, and that to me, I don't want that from every Star Wars story.
Right. Yeah.
But for a 6-issue thing that was reviving Star Wars comics after the wacky cartoony 90s stuff.
Right.
I mean,
Totally.
the 70s, 80s stuff. This works.
I mean,
me.
let me say one more thing, right? What the title of this series, it's called Dark Empire. Cam Kennedy's art is dark, in my opinion. There is no, cartoony light vibes at all. It's
this
dark.
Is not Jackson's
it's a very
Star Wars.
Yeah, this is not Jackson's Star Wars. This is a very dark kind of time. A very if you've been following us talking about this, if you've read this yourself, it's a roller coaster of emotions. So many things are happening from so many different angles, and it continues to go into a second one, and in a third one.
And Jacob described Dark Empire 2 as, if Dark Empire is a 10 on the craziness scale, Dark Empire 2 is at a 12.
Oh God.
Well, we could talk about the
So buckle up for
floating Jedi ball. That's a whole different story.
Patajoyos Brand, the
one of my
greatest
favorite
Jedi in the history of Star Wars.
I feel like I'm gonna end up having to like read Dark
Punk
Empire
Jedi.
2 and Dark Empire 3 like tonight, because
Empire's End. You've got to do it. You got to do it. Give yourself like, let your brain recover from this.
Yeah.
and then read them.
I need like
It's a
like
lot.
some sort of a cleanse in between each one. So
That's
like
right.
Remember that it
fully
was
digest
spread
it.
over, right? They were issues spread over a while.
And that was for a reason, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
But
so-
yeah, if you've read this, you got to get to them.
yeah,
Yeah.
I should. And I
They're
remember when
enjoyable.
you guys talked about them on Legends Lookback, I was like, oh, I've read the first Dark Empire. I should read the second too. And then when you guys said that they were even crazier, I was like, that seems a
I'm good.
little
I'm
little daunting. All right, so I have a few kind of like Easter egg type things.
Ooh, fun.
Before we get to our final ratings, these were just things I noticed. I didn't like skim through it very thoroughly. I didn't have time to do that this week. But I do have a few observations. I mentioned this one earlier, but I kind of want to come back to it. On Nar Shaddaa, when they talk about Han growing up, Han mentioned something about like Corellians or something like that, and that made me really infer that Nar Shaddaa, like Corellia is like a part of Nar Shaddaa. And I don't know if that's true or if I misinterpreted what he was saying, but it really got me interested about you know what Nar Shaddaa's history is, because it obviously seems like Han has a great deal of history there, and
Yeah.
you know whether or not Corellia is a term that is used on Nar Shaddaa, I don't know, but that definitely caught my eye for whatever reason.
I'm curious about the first origin of Corellia in the EU. I have to look that up. Yeah, I was supposed to be writing a piece for the site about Corellia, so I should probably find out. That's good. The Smuggler's Moon, Nar Shaddaa's. There's huts and there's smugglers. That's all you need to know.
Right. And Nar Shaddaa came back quite a bit in canon comics, which is really cool.
It's in KOTOR.
Oh, and it's in KOTOR. No kidding.
KOTOR 2. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a very fascinating planet. There was a trade called Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon. I think that was the Star Wars 2015 run, so it came back as early as that. And
oh yeah,
it's a cool planet. I liked seeing it again. Another one I picked up on is the whole Luke Skywalker force projection thing that happens in the 5th issue, where he's kind of like, you know, quote unquote, in the room with Leia and Han and the whole crew, making them think that they were able to rescue him from the Imperial Palace, but actually he was just force projecting himself.
And they called it a dark side force power.
And they called it a dark side force trait. That's the other thing, Jared. That is fascinating to me, because in The Last Jedi, Luke also does force projection, and that isn't seen as a dark side trait in that. It's seen as like a heroic act that is selfless and generally good, you know, but this one is seen as like really evil and mischievous.
In Legends, it is a dark side thing.
Interesting.
It comes up quite a bit more.
Did you guys like when you were watching The Last Jedi, did you think, oh, that's from Legends, or did it just like totally kind of go over your head?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. The second I saw, the force transfer conversation, I was like, okay, I've seen this before, and I really started to enjoy it, because I was like, we're getting some really healthy nods to some very legends in my opinion. And having that force projection, at first I didn't catch it, and when they had it, I was like, oh my goodness, they did it again. another pull from Legends, and I really enjoyed it. I was a big fan.
Do you have more Easter eggs? Because I've got one.
So I have one more, and this is kind of more for my canon comics readers specifically. The character Sala, who is one of Han's former girlfriends, I am like 99% sure that Sana Staros in canon is inspired from Sala from
That's what
Dark
most
Empire.
people think. Yeah.
Their looks are very similar, like physically. Physically they look very similar. Sana also has some sort of like romantic past with Han.
But they're salty about it.
But they're both salty about it.
Not a very good breakup.
yeah, and their names sound similar. That's kind of the obvious one.
Right.
And they're both like smuggler type folks. And
yeah.
when I saw it again, I was like, wait a second, and I had to kind of like I had to backtrack a little bit in my mind. I was like, wait, so Sana is in canon, and Sala is in Legends,
Yeah.
and they're extremely similar. So there must have been some sort of inspiration taken, and so I thought that was a really, fun thing to discover. I think it's a fun nod that the canon authors made to Dark Empire to,
Yeah.
I think at this point it has to be intentional. I was about to say whether they intended it or not, but I think that's it was purposeful. So.
Emma,
That's the
you're
last
feeling
thing.
how we feel when Jared and I
Yeah,
read this
yeah.
new stuff and watch this new stuff. We're like, hey, this is Legends.
It's the Leonardo
Well done, my
DiCaprio meme.
apprentice. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
The amount of times I do that as a Legends fan is, I compare it to that meme all the time, for sure.
love
All right, I've
that.
got one more Easter egg.
Yeah, give it to me. Yeah.
I think, and I didn't look this up, so spitballing, sweeping declaration, mic drop. This is the first appearance of a holocron in Star Wars.
Ooh.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
And Palpatine, he's like, first of all, he tempts her with it. He's like, you want to see my toy? And then he is mad when she steals it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need you to bring me back my Jedi in his box, okay? I need my elephant Jedi bug in his box on the pedestal where he belongs. Stormtroopers, she took my toy, and so it to me is like so ridiculous. What's he gonna do with that?
My toy back.
What's he gonna do with that thing?
Wait, what can the holocron teach him that he doesn't already know?
Sure, yeah. Is it even gonna work for him? Because he's a dark sider and it's a light side holocron. But he dispatches the entire Imperial fleet to find his holocron.
I love that so much. I also
And
thought that was
Jedi-
like whiny.
That Jedi is significant in Legends history. The one in the holocron that go back and tell his story in the Tales of the Jedi comics.
What?
Voto
That's so
Siast
cool.
Bosk. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a great Easter egg.
Oh yeah,
Huh.
he's great.
I like how the look of holocrons have certainly changed. I mean, they're definitely inspired by the same thing,
Yeah.
like a blue cube, right? But
Yeah.
now they're not just like some sort of blue ethereal matter. They're actually like kind of ornamental in a way on the outside. So I think that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I just bought
You
my
know-
first holocron. I'll have to show it off sometime soon.
Oh,
Nice.
cool. One more thing. It's not an Easter egg, but I feel
Okay.
like we didn't really touch on it. How crazy the dark side wormhole is that just.
yeah. I have so many questions
there's
about
so much
that,
crazy
but
stuff.
I feel like if I think about it more than 2 seconds, I'm probably gonna, need to take a nap or something.
Let's do a Legends Lookback episode one of these days. We'll have him on for it. The craziest force powers in Legends, and so
Ooh.
that'll be one of them.
Force
Yeah.
wormhole.
No, because that is like that shouldn't be possible. And I personally think a lot of crazy things can happen with the Force. I just generally believe that. But that is like
Bring it back into canon. I want to
It's
see
next
Force-
level.
Can you imagine if they brought that back into
Make
canon?
hyperspace wormholes canon again. We'll make red hats and everything.
and specifically call them a wormhole. Don't call them
Yes.
anything different. Only a wormhole, okay?
Yep.
Wow.
Perfect.
Yeah, that was fascinating. So let's go around let's go around our round table and rank rate this. I didn't want to do it like an initial rating because I feel like we all kind of have our ideas, so I figured we'd save it towards the end.
We've
Of
been
course,
doing
using
that
the
more
new,
with our show too. Yeah.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good system, especially now that we don't have like the whole decimal number system to play with. I think it's kind of more interesting to wait to see to the end. I'll go first as you guys think about it. Again, using our new Youtini rating system. I'm gonna give it. This is hard. I'm gonna give it a good. I hope nobody's like too offended by that. But
No.
I think for me, it's so goofy, but at the same time, it's trying to take itself so seriously, and I don't know
Right.
I don't know if that vibe works for me very much. And
That is exactly the vibe that makes this so good for me.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
combination.
listen, I'm so glad that we can have that difference of opinion though, because I think it shows like just our different styles of what we like to read, and I think that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not everybody can handle super weapon vacuums and naked clones all in one book, and
No, not everybody's cut out for this life.
no, but some people are. So yeah, I'm giving it a respectful good though. I appreciate what it was trying to do, and I appreciate the risks it took, and the story that it told. So I certainly have an appreciation for it.
That's good enough for me.
Good.
Freddie?
I feel like you and I have the same rating on this one. I mean, this is a story that I have seen forever in my life. It is like Oxygen. Dark Empire, grew up with it. Grew up not really understanding it, but for instance, in Rogue Squadron, I was in Rogue Squadron in the game and helped them take down these world devastators.
Yeah.
I enjoyed, seeing a lot of these things come back into the sequels. I've enjoyed it as a kid. I have the hardcover, of course. I've got a lot of the other stuff. This is something that's been with me forever, and it's really difficult, right? I'm coming on the opposite spectrum to say anything less than masterpiece. The Cam Kennedy's art is fascinating to me because it's so different and original and stylized. You don't see anything like it in many comics. So to me, it's just it's a very nostalgic piece to me as well, and that's the cool thing, right? Is we don't have to have the same opinions on this. We respect it for what it is. We don't have to like it as much as everybody else. But to me, this is a masterpiece. It is very meme worthy.
To say the least,
fits,
yes.
It fits our I would say if Legends Lookback had a theme song, and if that theme song was based upon Dark Empire, that's what our theme song would be.
Awesome. I love that.
Someone
I
should
also
do
go
that.
masterpiece, though I don't think it's perfect.
No, it's not perfect.
I think that there's some qualities to this that are, for me, my favorite Star Wars ever. It's so unique and is a great follow-up to Return of the Jedi. But the Return of the Jedi also has teddy bears, and this is like we're gonna flush your teddy bears down our hyperspace wormhole and then suck them up in the vacuum cleaners and turn them into TIE fighters. So it's so ridiculously, it takes itself seriously, as you said. I don't think it's perfect. It's a huge leap from the Marvel stuff. The dialogue is snappy like the films, which I appreciate. That Han sounds like Han to me in my head.
Yeah.
The locations are really original. There's great world building. It really follows up well on the idea that Luke is shook and that Palpatine had a contingency plan.
Mm-hmm.
The philosophical stuff of, can we defeat the dark side by infiltrating it, or will it consume you? That whole dynamic to me is so interesting. It's lacking, I think, in some of the like heartwarming and or funny elements of Star Wars that makes Star Wars what it is. It's a little bit too dire. The droids are the only humor in the entire thing, except for the things that we laugh at because we think of how ridiculous they are, which I don't think is what you want.
And the droids make the same jokes that they do in the movies, like pretty much.
Yeah, I was gonna say the droids are the only humor, and even that's not great.
Right.
But it's got so many iconic moments. The first holocron, the return of Boba Fett, Han has an ex-girlfriend, Palp's reborn, the birth of Anakin Solo, the first time Leia wielded a lightsaber. We're not counting Splinter of the Mind's Eye. We're not counting that. It's got a couple of really, really, really well-written lines. Sarlacc found me somewhat indigestible solo. Here's another good one. I'll tell you the truth about your father. The great Darth Vader was a sick man in an iron mask. Oh, that is awesome.
That is so good.
And then the final line of the Jedi Knights will rise again. It just tees up the rest of the EU. It's like in college. I took like high-level seminar classes, and we had to give a presentation at the end. And we would kind of, discuss with each other right before the presentation, hey, when we open up for the Q&A portion, let's all just lob each other a softball or two, just to get it started.
What's
right?
your favorite color?
Well, no, like a tough question that we pre-wrote and gave to a classmate. So that they ask the question, you're like, that's a great question. In fact, here's what I think about that. And then it makes you sound super smart. That's what this is. It tees up. It's a softball for the rest of the EU. Everything that follows after this, that line, it knocks it out of the park from here. It's not perfect, but it is my favorite piece of Star Wars of all time.
It's not perfect, but it's Dark Empire.
That's right.
Put it on a
Boom.
shirt.
That's a quote. Put on the back of the book.
Love it. That feels like a great place to end it there. Thank you both for joining me for this. This was really fun, and feels like a long time coming, so I'm glad that we were able to do it. So yeah,
And a long time running. This is the longest episode of the Cosmic Force ever.
Yes, I have zero doubt about that, and it fits. It works. It works. So yeah, next week, Monday on the Living Force, they've got the Shadow of the Sith Roundtable part 2 of that. So that's going to be really fun. Looking forward to that. As for Cosmic Force, we are taking a week off. We will be back the week after that. So that's I think August 24th maybe. We are going to do a to be announced episode. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. And Jared and Freddy, it's a big day tomorrow. Tell us what you got going on, Jared.
Well,
Jared or Freddy, whoever.
I've got a breakfast meeting
Jared.
at 7:15 with one of my bosses.
Right. You'll
No,
take the
we
puppy out
get
to go to the bathroom.
100 times. We've
Yes.
got the 100th episode of not Dark Empire, of Legends Lookback. 100th episode of Legends Lookback. It's a black tie affair. Guest for the first time ever, featuring Dr. Corey Helton, CEO of Youtini.com, in case you've never heard of him. We've got some one of Eric's stupid games that's going to make an appearance.
Ooh.
I mean, there's some fun stuff for sure. We're going to do a Legends award show, like the best of the best of Legends, top to bottom, inside out, upside down, all that good stuff.
That's awesome. Well, I have a weird gut feeling, like a sick feeling in my stomach that Shadows of the Empire is gonna win one or something. But
I don't know if it is, but that's good.
Oh yeah, it's good. Well,
Cringy
listen,
moments.
yeah, it wins the.
That's going in the show notes.
Do it. Tell them it's a write-in.
There it is.
Well, congratulations to the both of you on 100 episodes. That's
Thank you.
Bravo.
It's been a journey.
Yeah, for real.
It has.
And the technical problems do not stop.
Well, but this one, Freddy, this one wasn't really your fault. You can't control the weather. You know,
we made it.
We did make
That's
it. I'm happy that we made it. Monsoon. I've never been in a monsoon before, but it doesn't sound like it's super easy to run tech in a monsoon. So, bravo there.
Behind me, there's lightning probably about 2 miles away. I mean, it's going crazy.
Oh gosh. Okay. Wow. Well, before
coming
everything
out of anyone's fingertips.
Possibly. I couldn't confirm or deny.
You should go out and check, just in case.
Oh man, smooth bits.
Palpatine, you out there? You have any clothes on?
It's rather smooth.
Alrighty, folks. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Please make sure you tune in to Legends Lookback's 100th episode tomorrow night. That'd be Thursday, August 11th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It is going to be an absolute blast, and I for sure cannot wait to watch it. But that will do it for this week's episode of The Cosmic Force. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show right here on YouTube, where you can catch us live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We also encourage you to subscribe to our audio version on any podcast platform you listen to. You can also follow us on Twitter and tweet at the show at Cosmic Force Show to stay informed about Star Wars comics news. Or you can follow the hosts individually. I'm at IrmaJedi26, Jared is at Jared Q Mays, and Freddy is at Wake Up Freddy. For reviews, articles, and news for the rest of the expanded universe, be sure to visit Youtini.com. We encourage you to join our Youtini Discord community and go to Youtini.com/Discord to do that. You can help support the show by heading to patreon.com/Youtini to start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. Special thank you to Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Matt Billington, Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C, and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for their amazing support. Thanks so much again to Jared and Freddie for hosting with me tonight, and a special thank you to our listeners for joining us. We truly appreciate you. See everyone next week, or the week after that. And as always, may the Force be with you.